Hi and welcome to a video part of this series where we are building an e-commerce website with Django and React. In the previous series, we were building an e-commerce project with Django and a normal Bootstrap HTML and CSS front end, and now we're taking it to the next level with React. So to follow along, you're going to need two GitHub repositories, and the first one is the Django e-commerce project. The link is in the description of this video. This is the code that contains all of the Django e-commerce functionality that was part of the previous series, and we're going to be building on top of this. Then the second project is the Django React boilerplate, and this is a project that basically contains a Django and React user authentication bare setup for us to basically just take and get really started into our own custom project, which will be the e-commerce side of things. So what you're going to need to do is just clone or download both of these repositories, and then we can get started. Okay, so this is the Django e-commerce project running. I've just run it on the local host, and this is what it looks like. It's using an MD Bootstrap theme, which the link is in the description of this video as well to go and check that out. But we're not going to be continuing with this. Instead, we're going to be building our own custom UI using Semantic UI React, and the Django React boilerplate project already takes this into consideration. It's already got that set up. So all we need to do is just start using this theme, as we've moved away from and as the previous theme. So let's go and jump into the code here. This is the Django e-commerce project. What I'm going to do is actually stop that, and I'm going to navigate here into the Django React boilerplate project, and all I'm going to do is just call python manage.py run server. I've got a virtual environment open or activated, and I've also installed the node modules, so I can just go and say npm run start, and then we can come here into the browser, and I can just open up localhost on port 3000, and this is what it looks like. Then we can head over to login, and we can sign up. So all of the authentication side of things has already been taken care of, so all we need to do is just handle the functionality of the e-commerce project and convert that into now a Django REST framework equivalent, so with an API and some serializers, and allowing us to accept post and get requests. Here on the React front end, we'll then render out that data in a similar way as to how it's being done over here. And this at the moment is this list view of products. Then we also have, and actually let me go and stop that server just so we can see what this one looks like and actually run the e-commerce server, and just bring this up. So this would be like the product detail view. Then there's adding to cart, and let me also just sign in. Okay, so adding to cart, viewing the order summary, proceeding to checkout, filling in your shipping address, billing address, selecting a payment option, and let me actually just select this, and okay, I'm going to go and fill in my Stripe details now as well. Okay, there we go. Now we have the Stripe form loading. I can use a default card, submit payment, and then it creates the order. And that is basically the whole life cycle that we have in our e-commerce project. So basically converting that into the React equivalent. So what we can start off with is just creating this product list view. And I've got the Semantic UI React open here. We're just going to go and look for something like a list. And then here we can see different list items. And actually would probably be an item component like this, which we can then use for our e-commerce items like this. So let's just scroll down and see something sort of like these. And let's just see what other options they have. And okay, so something like this one here that has this extra content. So we'll probably add the price as extra information, and then something over here like being able to add to cart for each item. So what I'm going to do is start by just clicking try it, and then we're going to copy all of this code, and actually can just click copy there, and then we'll come back here into the Django React boilerplate, and let's just go into source, containers, and then we'll create a new file here, and we'll just call this the product list.js, and then here we'll just paste that there. Okay, then I'm just going to rename this to be the product list, and I'm going to change this into a class because we're going to need to fetch data eventually. So we'll just say extends react.component, and then just render and return all of this. Okay, so then we can bring this product list into our roots, and I'll just say import product list from containers / product list, and then here let's go to /products, and then we'll make sure that we use product list, and I'm actually going to move this to the top over here, so just like that. Okay, and just make sure that this is product list. Okay, so I'm going to go and run this server now, and we can go and close this one off. So now we're only going to be working with our Django React boilerplate, and then once we've got the UI up to a certain point where we will need to bring in the backend, then we will bring in those apps into this project. So like this, let's go and refresh this, and let's see if we can log in. And what I'll do is just stop here and just say python manage.py create super user, and then specify admin, and there we go. Then I'll just run the server, come back here and log in with that user. And now let's also go and specify a list item here in the layout. So I'm just going to come here and let's see. So if we are logged in, then just actually we most likely don't even need to be logged in to see those items in the cart. So I'm just going to paste this here, and we'll say this is the products item, and it takes you to /products. Then if we come back here, click on products, there we go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap the product list inside a container. So let's just import container over here, and we'll just wrap it around the item group. Okay, all right, cool. So now that's at least coming here in the middle. And actually, let's just inspect here. And if we just see, we have the container, but it's not being pushed down by the UI. And then after that, we have item. So what I'm going to do here is just remove fixed there. And let's just see how that impacts it. So you can see now the container is at least a little bit down. So we don't have that overlay of the UI on top of the container, or the menu on top of the container. So what I'm going to do is just come here to the layout, and I'm going to remove fixed from there. Okay, come back. All right, cool. Then we can go and close layout, and here I'm going to remove these items, and I'm just going to keep the second one, and we'll just come back here and get rid of that, because we only need one, because we're going to map through the data that we get from the API and then recreate this item as a reusable component. So if we just come back and see, there's one, and instead of saying buy tickets, this is going to say add to cart. And we can also go and specify an icon inside there. So if we come over here and just go here and search for icons, or just click there, then here let's see what cart we have, and there we have cart plus. So we can come over here and we can specify cart plus, then what I'm going to do here is say icon, and we'll say label position equals to right. There we go. Now we at least get it looking like that. And very similar to how we have this category here, we have new. What we can do is make use of this limited label and say whatever this label is over here goes inside this label here. Then the title will obviously be the title or that category, whatever that shirt is. Then a shirt, if that is the title, that can then go inside here. So we'll play around with that. And then we have the image, which will be the actual image displaying here on the left. And if we just go back here to that item and see what was being displayed here, let's just see. So this image here of the lines is basically just data that's loading. So instead of displaying a loader inside here, what we can do is display a loader until all of the data has been fetched. So like that, let's just go and add a component did mount method, and I'm going to say that the spaces are 2, and we'll say component did mount. Then here what we'll do is use Axios, and because we don't need to be authenticated to fetch a list of products, what I'm going to do is just use normal Axios request and not pass in any headers parameters containing the token, whereas for actions that do require us to be authenticated, we will create a custom Axios method that we can then import and use that throughout the project. So what I'm going to do is just come over here and say import Axios from Axios, and then here we can say axios.get some, this would be like some URL, and then we can say .then with the response we'll say set state, and here we could inside the state contain some loading variable which initially is false, and an error variable which could be null, which we could set to be the error if we do catch one. So we could just say catch that error and say this.setState error to be that error. And in the case of receiving data, then we could say that the data inside the state could just be an empty array, and then we'll say that data is response.data, and then also set loading to be false, and we'll do that in this case as well, like that. Cool. So then here before the request, we'll set loading to be true, and then we can come here and look for the loader component. So something like this, and what I'm going to do is just copy this bottom one there, and then we can basically just paste that here and just see. So we need the segment, and we need the loader, and we need the image, which is already there, and we need the dimmer. So just importing all of those, and then we'll just come here inside our container, and we can say if loading is true, then we will render out that segment, and then we can just fetch these variables from the state. So that'll be data, error, and loading, which will come from this .state. And then we can also do something here and say if there's an error, then we'll render out a message component, just displaying that sort of error that we just received. So we can just look for error, and then see here, we can look for different colors. So something like this, a negative error, for example. And we can also include a list. So what I'll do is I'll just copy this one and then come over here, and I'll just paste that there. And the list, I'm actually going to change to be content, and I'm going to set it to be the error and actually call JSON.stringify that error, as we're not too sure what we're going to get back from the API at the moment. Then otherwise, the data we're going to map through and create items based on that data. So, but we'll also deal with that once we receive it. So what we can do is inside source, we'll just create a constants file. So constants.js, and then here we'll specify all of the endpoints that we're going to query. So let's say export constant, and we'll say this is the product list URL, and we can say that this just goes to, let's say, our localhost. So we could say constant localhost equals HTTP 127.0.0.1 port 8000, and then we could say that our constant API URL equals to /API, and we could say that our endpoint equals to the localhost. So we'll put in localhost here, and then we'll put in, let's actually get rid of the trailing slash there. So like this, and then we can put the API URL. And then over here, we can say that it's the endpoint slash, and this could be product list. So then like this, we can then just bring this into our product list, and we could say import the product list URL from our constants file, and then make sure that we get from that URL. So at this moment, let's see, we also have message not defined yet, so we'll just import that here. So message component, and there we go. Now we can try and bring some data from our API. So what I'm going to do is go here into the e-commerce project, and let's just try and copy this core app. So I'll just copy that there, and then come in here, and let's just see, we don't have core yet, so we can just go and paste it right here. And I'm going to go and delete the migrations folder, and let's just check here. So these are all of the models that we've been working with in the previous Django e-commerce project. If there are any errors in our migrations, then we'll just delete the database and restart, but let's just see what happens. So let's go into home settings, base, go all the way to the top here, and then here we'll add in core, and then we can stop here, and we see Django countries is not installed. So let's stop there and say pip install Django countries, and then I'll say pip freeze into requirements.txt, and let's try run the server. Okay, so we also need pillow, so pip install pillow, and let's try run the server again, and cool. Now let's stop that there, and we can then just bring this up a little bit, and we can say python manage.py make migrations core. Okay, then we can say manage.py migrate. Cool, so that worked. Then run the server. Now we can go into core. I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call it API, and then inside there we'll create views.py, and I'm just going to come here into core views, and let's just see here, check out view, and let's see if we have any normal product list views sort of, and that seems to be the home view. Cool, and we can see here it's using the item model. So let's just come and check here, and this is it, the item model. So basically it's a class-based view that is just paginating by 10 items into home.html. So very simple, it's a list view. So what we can do is basically take that same logic and just create a list API view. So what we'll do is say from REST framework dot generics import list API view, and then we'll say from core.models import the item, and then here we can say class item list view inheriting from the list API view. Then we'll need to create a serializer. So in API we'll create serializers.py, and then here we'll say from the REST framework import serializers, and we'll say from core.models import item, and then here we can say this is the item serializer, which we'll just inherit from the model serializer, and then here we'll just have to say class meta and say model is item, and the fields are basically going to be all of these fields. So let's just copy all of these and then just paste them all here. Cool. So now we have an item serializer, which we can bring into our API view. So we'll say from .serializers import item serializer, and then here we just have to say the serializer class equals to that item serializer, and then we'll say that the query set equals to item.objects.all, and then we can say that the permissions classes is for now just going to be allow any. So what we can do is say from REST framework dot permissions import allow any, and then we'll just specify that in here. Then we can take item list view, and what I'm going to do is inside URLs we can actually create a new URLs inside API. So I'll say urls.py here, and we'll just say from .views import item list view. We can say from Django.urls import path, and then here we'll say URL patterns equals to a path here, and this can just be the exact API endpoint that we specified here in constants. So that's product list. So if we go to product list, then it's going to use the item list view dot as view, and we'll say that the name is equal to product list, just like that. Cool. So let's close some of these files, and then inside our home URLs we're going to need to include the API. So what I'm going to do is say path to API, and we'll say include core.api.urls. Cool. So if we check the server is running, and now we can just close the home URLs, we've got our item list view. So if we come back in here, and I'm just going to close that, and we'll go to 127, and let's go to /API/product list, and let's just see here, if we go to / at the end there, now we can see we don't have any items. So let's go to the admin, and I'll just log in to the admin here, and we can go and create an item. So let's just say this is a test item, and we'll add in some data here. There we go. Now if we come back and refresh this, now we have at least some data coming through. And if we come back here to the React boilerplate project, now when we fetch that data, we should be able to see something come through. So let's just go back here and come in here, and then we can actually close constants, come in here, and let's just go into this and say console.log response.data. And if we come in here and inspect this and go to console, now we have an array and we have some items over here. So now what we can do is we can map through that data. So if we go here, inside the item group, we're going to output here dynamically item, or rather data.map for each item, we will return and then cut that out there. And then here we'll say that the key is going to be item.id, and the image source is going to be the item dot, and if we just go and take a look here, this will be item.image, and then the header is going to be item.title. Then IFC cinema, we can change this to be item.category. Let's just see here. And okay, so that's giving us an S there. So what we can actually do is we can go here in the serializer and we can say the category is equal to serializers dot serializer method field. Because category is a choice, we can either receive the value that's stored in the database or get the display value. So what I'm going to do here is say define get category, which is just going to take in self and that object, and then here we'll just say return object dot get category display. And like this, if we come back and refresh this page, come back here, now category says shirt, and then here this will be item.category. The description will be item.description. So this paragraph here, this is something up top here, I'm going to get rid of that, and we'll just come over here and change this to be item.description. Then limited will be if there is a discount price. So what we can do is say here, we will only output this if item.discount price, then we will show limited. And if we come over here, it says label is P. So if we just go back here and see what label is either primary, secondary, or danger. So what I'm going to do is do the exact same thing on the serializer here. We'll define another method, and it'll be label is a serializer method field, and just tab that in. Then this will be get label and get label display. Then if we come back here, limited will be item.label, and we can come back here now. And now we at least have the shirt that's displaying. We have the title, the category, description, and primary. And what we can actually do is, let's see here with the label, we can say color, and we can set this equal to, let's say, if item.label equals to primary, we could say red, otherwise let's say blue for now. And if we take a look, now we get red. And let's see here, we can actually probably want to change that to blue. So then we can say otherwise if it is secondary, then we could put green, otherwise we'll put, let's say, olive. So that is that now. And let's see, a key needs to be a property. So let's just see here why that's not coming through. If we refresh this, that's because in our serializer, we need to specify that the ID comes through there. So now if we come back and refresh this, now it's working. Cool. So now we at least have our products that are listing out here on this page, and we'll work on the styling as we get into it, but that's all we're going to cover in this video. In the next one, we will get started with adding to cart and then displaying the same concept as we've seen before, the number of items that we have in the cart displaying here in our navigation bar. So we'll start working with that in the next one. So if you enjoyed this video, then leave a comment down below and let us know what you thought. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.